Joining us now after the verdict in the Karen Reed trial is our friend Ted Daniel of Fox 25, Boston 25. Ted, good morning.
Good morning. What a day.
Unbelievable. How much time over both of these trials would you say you gave to covering it, watching and being there? Would you guess? Months, I'm assuming, right?
Yeah, it's probably been my life for 2.5 years. I've never, I've covered some other big cases, but this one, the lawyering was so intense, with all the motions. There's like new developments every single day, and you could not sleep on this case at all, because if you did, something would pop and you would miss it. So as much as I enjoy the people at the Norfolk County Superior Courthouse, I am certainly happy not to be driving there this morning.
Were you surprised? We were talking about this earlier, both on and off the air in our meeting this morning. Were you surprised by how many people were there for a criminal trial in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts yesterday outside?
It was like a sporting event. When I was in the courthouse when the verdict was being read, you could hear the cheers loud and clear in the courtroom. And, there were restrictions about, people's behavior outside the courtroom. And, at the end of the case, all that goes out the window, and people just absolutely erupted. It was surreal seeing something like that. And then, as she walked out the front door, that's when it got the loudest.
Yeah.
Ted, when it comes to the jury, being in that courtroom, I just can't imagine being a jury member as it's being read. What was the tone? What were the facial expressions of all of them? Did they all seem like they were on the same page? Because, of course, they gave a verdict, then they didn't give a verdict, and then they finally did.
Yeah, so I got screwed the last week of the trial. I was in the courthouse getting the direct feed, but I was not in the courtroom when the verdict was read. So that was super disappointing to me because, I had covered the case, and there were some, entities that really didn't cover it at all, but put their name in this sort of randomizer list, and they got the spots. So it is what it is, but I mean, that's the first time I've seen Karen Reed. I know she shed some tears in one of those documentaries, but that's the first time I think I've seen sort of emotion from her in a courtroom. And there's been a lot of sort of dramatic events since this all began, and she was wiping tears and hugging her attorney. So yeah, the jury, I would imagine they're more than anyone are probably happy to be waking up, not going into the courthouse this morning, because they had a huge responsibility.
Ted, you said you've been to a bunch of cases and everything. One of the things that we kind of talked about that I feel like I wasn't into it as much as Greg and Courtney was, but do you feel like that the public presence, the publicity of this case helped her to eventually being found not guilty?
I think the answer to that is probably yes. I mean, the jury, when they were brought in, they were asked, hey, we know that you might have heard about this case, but can you put whatever you heard aside and listen to the evidence in the courtroom and make that decision? But yeah, I'm assuming that there were people on that jury who probably knew about some of the, strange things that had occurred and the questions that were being raised. But I also think that the defense did an amazing job. I mean, this time around was a little different than the first trial, and they really focused on sort of the reasonable doubt aspect of this case, and that there was no collision from what the defense told the jury over and over again, and I think that was super effective.
Ted, I'm just curious what you think the key moment, if you had to pick one, that led to the jury finding Karen Reed not guilty of the two main charges.
I would imagine, I would suspect it may have to do with John's injuries. The fact that, John O'Keefe had a serious skull fracture, head wound, and that's what took his life, but he did not have broken arms. He did not have, broken legs. And this time we saw x-rays. Those x-rays did not exist in the first trial. They were taken by the medical examiner's office, And the jury got to see that. And this time around, you know, the ARCA guys, the two crash reconstructionists the defense hired.
Yep.
Crash
these
daddies.
guys
Oh,
are-
yeah, we know them.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Courtney,
exactly.
Courtney loves them.
You know them well. Yeah, you know, these guys are, you know, sort of the cream of the crop. And especially Andrew Rentschler, the second one who testified, Brennan really, you know, went after him and his conclusions. But Rentschler was so effective because almost every single question that he answered, he kind of ended, well, it doesn't matter because there was no collision. And he kept saying it over and over again. And, you know, when you look at, okay, this is a person who did, you know, all these tests, and they showed the tests, the crash tests, and they're saying we can't replicate what the prosecution says happened here. And I would, you know, if any juror wants to speak, hit me up, get in touch with me. But I'd love to hear, you know, what were the other things that they may have thought that really sealed the deal for them.
Ted, what happens now? What does the Commonwealth do now? Do they open an investigation to figure out, you know, if something else did happen to John O'Keefe and what that was?
Not a chance in hell. No, the Commonwealth is all in on Karen Reed doing this and that this was the incorrect verdict. No, they will never. There will never be another investigation by the state. And there's the civil case, of course. The O'Keefe family has sued Karen Reed for wrongful death, for John's death. So she has to face that. And it's sort of, you know, civil court's a different animal. So, you know, there's possibility that she may have culpability there. But, you know, as for her criminal troubles in on this case, you know, she's done. They can never try her again on these charges. So I think it just ends.
Becomes a cold case, and that the family of Officer O'Keefe will probably never get the answers to what really happened.
Well, I mean, they're absolutely convinced that Karen Reed did this. Okay. So I think that it's not like they're coming out and saying, you know, well, we need to reopen this. No, they just feel in their mind that the jury did not return the right verdict.
Okay.
How long until we get a film, like a feature film? And who would you guess plays you, Ted Daniel?
That's a good question. I would imagine. I mean, Karen Reed's got some serious bills to pay, right?
Yeah.
I think she told me that she was about, you know, $5 million in on legal fees. Yeah. I know they had raised $1 million. So
yeah, I just heard that excuse from Alan Jackson the last 5 minutes during the break in here. So yes.
So I would imagine she's going to do something, whether it be a book, you know, whether it's some sort of documentary or something that will have her sort of stamp and her involvement in it. But yeah, no, this is, you know, Hollywood couldn't create this script.
Yeah.
Wyatt Russell could play him. He kind of looks. I went to his IG page.
Could play
Ted Daniel.
Oh,
yeah.
all right.
Wyatt Russell.
Who is that?
Wyatt Russell. That's Kurt Russell's son.
Oh.
Yes, he was in the new Avengers movie that we just saw, Thunderbolts.
Okay.
He was.
I gotta look up. He better be good looking.
Yeah, I mean,
well, Wiggy gets uncomfortable. He doesn't put sunscreen on.
He's a great actor too.
Like the defense that much, and I kind of get, you know, remember that they came swinging at her sort of at the infancy of being in her courtroom, saying that she was conflicted with having, you know, connections to people on the other side. So yeah, I think that she certainly made a name for herself in Massachusetts.
Yeah.
Ted, is there going to be another documentary where there are documentary cameras following this trial around? There were a lot of cameras yesterday, but.
Yeah, so there's a British company. There's a British film company that's working with Netflix.
Oh.
So they have been sort of, you know, I think they began about 7 or 8 months ago, getting everything together, and they've been meeting with different people. And yeah, they were on the ground for the last couple of weeks outside the courthouse. So there will be one on Netflix that's in the works now. And I think they're still trying to, I know they have a lot of people kind of locked up to do interviews with, but I think they're still working to get more people from the defense.
When you say there will never, whatever you said, there'll never be anything like it, is there anything when it comes to stories that you've covered in a considerable amount of time? Is there anything that's close?
I mean, Aaron Hernandez was kind of close. I think the national attention on that was pretty big, but that was, pretty cut and dry. At least the one that was down in Fall River, his first case, and there wasn't people outside the courtroom cheering for Aaron Hernandez. So, when you look at the totality of everything that happened here and how it all unfolded over the years, and new stuff would pop up and interesting stuff. I don't know. I honestly, I still got I got college to pay for a daughter, so I'm not getting that anytime soon. But I think that I'm not sure if I'll see something like this again.
Yeah, I'm guessing that there are some fan addicts who are wondering what they're going to watch all day long today.
I certainly
what they're going to do. They may have to go to work or interact with other human beings.
I was on random people's TikTok pages watching their live stream of outside the courthouse. They know nothing. Like, they know just as much as I know, but I'm watching their stream.
Yeah.
It was nuts.
A lot of people. It's going to take
There's so many of them.
Take them a while to recover, Ted. All right. And then the civil case, when is your guess at when that ends up going to court? That takes a while, right?
Yeah. So, they're already in court, and the judge had put a sort of a stay on everything while the criminal trial was going on. So now that the criminal trial is over, the civil case can start back up again. But those cases, usually there's more of sort of a pressure to move a criminal case along faster than there would be in civil court. So these civil cases can run years and years. And, if Karen Reed fights it as hard as she, fought her criminal trial, this is going to be another case where it's, everything gets on the table.
Ted, just from your perspective, when did you think, if you had a moment where you said there's no way that she's going to go away for this? Was there a point? Did you think from the beginning? Was it where and when did you come to that conclusion?
Well, when the jury asked those questions, I had that they kind of telegraphed what the verdict was with those questions, saying, they ask if we acquit on 2 charges, but do the least serious charge on the third, does that subcharge mean she gets convicted of the higher charge? And that's a little confusing, but that's exactly what happened. But here's the thing. So that happened, the day before, and it earlier in the day. So we're like, okay, they're getting a verdict. This is their question. Obviously this is the way they're leaning. And then for the rest of the day, the jury's silent and they go home. And then yesterday, they bring everyone back in the courtroom in the afternoon, and they say, we have a verdict. Or the judge said, the jury knocked on the door. A court officer came in. They said, we have a verdict. And then before that got entered, the jury said, no, we don't have a verdict, which was wild. And then 15 minutes later, yes, we do have a verdict, and the one that we saw.
Pretty wild. All right. Well, go ahead, Courtney.
Well, I just wanted to ask if you watched the Michael Proctor interview last night and if you thought anything about that.
No, and that's something I plan to watch today. I did not get a chance to watch it. What were the big takeaways?
He regrets.
He said he would never plant evidence.
Right. Regrets the texts.
He's misunderstood. He said some things about you that weren't very nice. Maybe you can read those. And no, he didn't say anything. It was. I'm sure everybody's going to do an interview now. Is what's coming, Ted.
Yeah.
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 All right.
Yep.
Well, I for one appreciate you taking the time for the last 3.5 years to be our unofficial crime correspondent. We don't have the money around here to pay one, so I appreciate you, and that's probably why we won't get Karen and Alan on for a while. But Ted, you're the best. Thank you. Go get some sleep. Take some time off.
All right, guys. All right. Have a great day.